This week, I'm flirting with the light side and painting a Jedi. In the past, I've worked on a lot of Sith and bounty hunters on the channel, but this week, I wanted to paint a Jedi. Not just any Jedi, though, the Jedi, Mark Hamill, aka Luke Skywalker. And not just any Luke Skywalker, though, because as you can see, I have the limited edition Hoth flight jumpsuit set that came out, I think like 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know. I've been sitting on this thing for a while. I really like this version of Luke in particular. The only other version of him that I like the most is when he is goth and emo and hanging out with the Emperor. But this is my other favorite version. I just think the contrast between the snowy Hoth scene and his orange flight suit looks amazing. So I wanted to try my hand at it today. Now, I actually got started on this particular painting tutorial on Tuesday during my hobby live stream this week. I was building an X-Wing out of Lego. I finished it early and I treated everybody that was there to working on the grisaille technique I was going to be doing on this model to get my priming done. Now, grisaille is just a fancy word for slap chop. And if you're not familiar with that, it's a very simple technique. All you do is apply a basic mid-tone for your primer. Then what I do is I put on a shade. This time I use Nuln oil, let that thoroughly dry, and then to establish some highlights, I went back in with a dry brush using matte white from the Army Painter. This worked out brilliantly. I love what I have going on my model already. Now that I have some absolutely lovely highlights, midtones, and shadows established on my miniature, I want to start getting to some color, and we're going to start with his flight suit that I love so much. I'm going to go with my tried and true standard of Gryph Hound orange. I think this looks amazing, and I love immediately what this is doing over top of the grisaille technique that I'd already applied to the model. The highlights especially are popping so well, and I just cannot be more pleased. Now I'm gonna go through this very delicately. Because I did this technique with the slap chop, I don't want to have to do any touch up, so I wanna be very careful not to get this orange color anywhere that it shouldn't be. So I'm gonna switch between different brushes, making sure that they're very appropriate for the sections that I'm painting. Once I am done with the orange, we can go ahead and move on to the rest of his outfit. Now let's start on some of the more neutral color tones on Luke's outfit, starting with his boots. For this, I decided to go with Ratling Grime. I really like the slight brown undertone that this particular gray paint has. I think it works especially well for gray leathers, and that's exactly what I'm going for on his boots, so that's what we're going to use. Once those have dried, we're going to move on to the belt, which I pulled out Gore-grunta fur for. Now, this is a little bit of an orange colored brown tone, and when I first applied it, I was actually mildly worried I had made a mistake and that it was gonna blend in too much with the orange that I put on his flight suit. Thankfully, when it dried, it looked distinct enough and I didn't have to worry about it, and I was able to move on to the part I was looking forward to most about his outfit outside of that orange color tone, and that is all the white straps. Now, part of the reason that I did the slap chop method on this particular model was because I knew there was going to be a lot of white elements on it, and I really like the effect that this applies when you're basically going for a white paint scheme. And so all I'm going to do to enhance it, soften it a little bit, is using a bit of Soulblight gray shade. This is a lovely new shade from Citadel that will just tint the shadow portions of the model the most, and it's going to really make it this uniform white leather appearance. And I absolutely love it because it already looks like he's been out in the snow before even applying any of my weathering technique, which I'm going to be doing at the end. Now it's time to move on to the control panel that's on his chest. And for this, I'm going to bring out Basilicanum Gray. This is why I didn't want to use Basilicanum Gray on his boots and instead went with the Ratling Grime so that I could establish it here as the metallic. Just really like the way Basilicanum looks as a non-metallic metal supplement. Now, once this is onto the chest piece, I'm also going to apply it to the base because there is sort of a ventilation system that he ends up standing on that's peeking out of the snow, and I want to make that metal as well. Once we have those color tones down, I was looking at some reference material for Luke in this particular outfit, and I noticed that on the control panel, there's actually some blue and white buttons, and I wanted to go ahead and paint those on there to make it more on model. So I'm going to just pull out a little bit of Talassar blue and matte white respectively and apply it to a couple of the buttons on the chest. Luke is looking pretty good, except for maybe a little stark white in the face. And we're gonna fix that now by going ahead and applying some Crusader Flesh speed paint to his face in a single thin coat. This works absolutely brilliantly, and I really like the effect that it has, especially as it settles into the eyes to give him a little bit of a heavy brow. But I'm looking at him and we need to do one more thing, and that's take care of his hair and his eyebrows. Thankfully, Star Wars Legion and Atomic Mass games make it really easy for me to paint his eyebrows because they stick up prominently, and I'm able to just glide some Aggros Dune across it to give him a nice blonde look. Then I'm going to apply this also to the rest of his hair, of course. We're down to the final elements on this particular model. We need to take care of Luke's lightsaber as well as his base. Let's start with the lightsaber, because for this, I had some fun ideas. Now, he's obviously still wielding Anakin's lightsaber at this point, which means we need to go for a blue color tone, and I'm going with Frostheart for this. This is a new color tone from Citadel, and I think it works perfectly for that classic blue lightsaber look. But I don't want to just stop there. I've seen some people do a very simple technique to add a little bit of a glow effect to their lightsabers by basically rubbing on a little bit of white paint and building that up until you have a white, bright strip down the middle of the lightsaber, generally onto opposite sides. And that's exactly what I'm doing on Luke's lightsaber, and I think the final effect looks amazing. In fact, I like it so much, I'm probably gonna go back and apply this to both Darth Maul's lightsaber, as well as probably General Grievous and Obi-Wan Kenobi's, because I have them both painted up as well, because I really, really like the way that this turned out. Now, the final thing I need to take care of is his base. And for that, we need to do two things. First, I'm going to put a little bit of Chill Briar Queen on the snow portions to give it a nice white bluish color tone. Then I'm pulling out my weathering powders. That's right, you heard it correctly. I'm gonna pull out some Tamiya weathering powders, and I'm specifically going to be using the one labeled Snow because I'm painting snow, so why not try it? I'm going to apply this to the base as well as to Luke's boots and legs to basically make it look like the powder of the snow that he's been trudging through has been clinging to his outfit. And I just love the way that this turns out. Let's take a look at the final model. And here he is, my very first Luke Skywalker. And honestly, I am incredibly pleased with how this particular model came out. I'm actually more pleased with him than any other Star Wars Legion model that I've painted so far. And I'm a little sad by that because he's not even one of my top favorite characters from Star Wars. He's actually quite low on the list. But the model was just really fun to paint. I think it's partially because this is the limited edition one and he's in his cool flight suit, and I just think that is a little bit more fun to paint than maybe some of his other outfits. But that being said, I think it was also partially the techniques that I used on this particular paint job that really made it as fun for me as it was. I really like the slap chop method when it comes to establishing your primer on your model. I think having the guidance of knowing where your highlights, midtones, and shadows should be in grayscale and being able to apply color over top of that and then enhancing it works especially well. And that is what I tried to do in this particular paint job. I also got to play more with my weathering powders, which I'm trying to incorporate into my techniques a bit more. I really want to start to use all these techniques that I've been showing you and accumulating them into single projects so that we can see how they all work together, and I hopefully succeeded with that in today's tutorial. Do let me know what you think of my Luke down below and what you think you'd like to see me paint next from Star Wars Legion. Now, before I head out, I do want to give a huge thank you to my patrons for making it so that content like this can continue to happen. Without your guys' support, we wouldn't be doing this, so thank you very, very much. I have been Angela, and I hope you have a wonderful hobby night.